We should also talk about not to derail the Minchukov talk, but Joakim Kemell, because I feel like already if he joined the board now, it would be 5-spot drop. How far can we drop Kemell, and how do we justify that decision?
I have him at 10 right now, and it's a pretty huge drop. I just overrated I saw him as a bit like someone who moves away from the puck, finds pocket of space, scores pretty good shot overall. But I also thought he was a better playmaker and better with his decisions. So right now I see him at the NHL level as kind of a second liner, third liner who's going to score by, again, moving away from the puck, timing himself into pockets of space and playing a bit of defense, making the occasional passing play. But his skills are just more limited than other players we have ahead of him, like Frank Nazar, Slavkovsky, and his game is more limited too. And he has to adapt more of it to translate to NHL ice, I think, than some of the other players we have ahead of him.
And Cam, have you seen a lot of Kemell?
Yeah, I have. I've always been a little questioned on his high end upside, even when he was, shooting the lights out there. I think I have him at 8 right now, which I think I still think he's a top 10 player in this draft. If he's 10, that's fine with me too. But I think he's right around in that zone where, like David said, I think he's more middle 6 upside. Now, as soon as I say that out loud, I always get texts from team side guys being like, "You're going to take somebody in the top 10 who's got middle 6 upside. Like, why aren't you swinging on someone deep?" Like, I got the same thing about Urov, who I've got right around that same zone too. I think they're both going to be NHL players. I think they're both going to be able to contribute in different ways. Maybe Urov is going to be more demonstrative defensively with the way he plays than Kemell's going to be. Maybe Kemell's got a little more scoring upside to him, and maybe he can leverage those hands that he's so reliant on, that he can elevate them to a level that he can be like a really impactful second liner, or maybe a passer on a first line. I think that we should note that he has struggled post injury, and that's obviously impacted his play here later on in the season. So the first half of the season he wasn't as good as he looked. And I think the second half of the season, he's not as bad as he looks.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is somewhere in between, which is probably where we projected him in the preseason, where we all kind of liked him. We're like, this is going to be a pretty good player, like definitely a top half of the first round guy, maybe a top 10 player. And that I still think that's where he's going to be and where he should be, in that kind of 8 to 12 range.
I don't know how many of you read EP Rinkside Finland, but Lassie recently posted a good little article explaining, comparing Kemell, Slavkovsky, and Lambert. And one of the big differences of Kemell in 2022 versus 2021 is that he's actually a better playmaker now, like considerably. He's passing more into the slot, creating more scoring chances for his teammates. So I don't think the second half has been entirely a waste for him, but there is definitely some concern as the shooting percentage comes back down to earth, and subsequently the tools look a little bit more, let's say, requiring refinement.
I like Lambert a lot more.
I still have real concerns about Lambert.
Yeah, there are many.
His sense is not great.
It's not great.
Speaking
Shies
of
away from the middle of the ice,
players.
the pros.
We also have a problem evaluating him because in the environment that he plays, and Lassie keeps telling me that it's not too bad, but when I watch his games, he has no support, like zero. He can't complete a play because his teammates aren't there, and it's because he moves ahead of the play too fast. He's also responsible for that, but he has no chemistry whatsoever. And we saw what happened at the World Junior Championship, where he could play with better players who understood his game and could complement it. He came alive. It was 2 games against weaker formations, and I don't put too much stock into that, but he's still one of the more toolsy players in this draft. In fact, he has the best tools by far. I gave his skating an 8, so it's close to the maximum, and his handling skill is pretty close. He's super agile. His weight shifts. He's manipulative. He has so much room to add more skills. Like, he's a great development project. He doesn't read the game all that well sometimes, but when we're talking about a top 10 player in this draft, he's a really good candidate.
Were you saying Kemell ahead of Lambert, Cam?
I was, yeah. I have. Let's see here. Where is it? I've got Lambert, I think, at 11. I even have Savoie ahead of him, but I think that's not. I don't feel very strongly about either of those two at this point.
David, what do you think of Savoie over Kemell?
I have Savoie ahead of Kemell. I just like the tools more. I'm a tools guy in this draft again.
Well, you're a tools guy in this moment until we finish the board, and then you're a sense guy.
Yeah, maybe. There's just so much more in his game. Like, yeah, they read the game the same way. They have the same off-puck game. Savoie projects even better defensively in some games that I watch. The skills is better. The smaller skills are much better. Like Savoie is more physical. He has more physical skills, can better absorb contact, spin off a bit. And even his shooting skills, I think Savoie's are better. It's his handling skills. Everything is better for me. And Savoie's toolkit and game overall.
And Cam, you have Savoie ahead of Lambert?
Yeah, I do.
I'm sorry for asking that question. I unleashed a quagmire upon us. I was hoping Dave would take the other angle, and then we would have solved it.
Mitch just lobs a grenade into the middle of the room and just enjoy, fellas.
Chaos grenade.
Yeah.
This is just like a group, right? Like it's just a bunch of dudes kind of in a similar group. So, we can throw them in any order and it's not going to be the end of the world at this point. I think we'll really have to like plant our flag come June, right? Is when we'll have to fight tooth and nail over every spot.
So what do we do then? Let's put some names down. So Lambert, Savoie, Kemell.
Yes.